An administrator of a medical institution had reached out. They were having challenges with their information. They were still in the physical paper document stage. They had never initiated any digital process, though they had an ERP that was not in use. And he gave me quite a number of challenges that they were having, and he was looking for a quick solution, and a quick and flawless solution to ensure that the process was smooth and the staff would not get frustrated. And we had to come with ideas on how to handle this. So he came up with several challenges, which included one, slow process. They were having this issue because if a patient, for a patient to come in, they had to book an appointment a day or two before. This would give them time to search for a file and have it ready for the doctor's appointment. And this was wasting time, the nurse's time, because it would stop the nurses from attending to the patient and spending more time on searching for patient's file. And then number two, they were having frustrated. The staff were frustrated. They were frustrated because they were doing work that they were not supposed to do at all. Instead of the nurse attending to the patient, she was spending some time looking for files, which was very frustrating. And then also this was leading to it was slow adoption. In fact, for them, it was no adoption because they were seeing like if they have to change, it will never change their working processes. They were not seeing any advantage, and they'd not seen it anywhere to show them that it would make their life different. So they were comfortable with whatever they were doing at the moment, and this led to low productivity. Because of doing other things which were not in their docket. Yeah, so it was taking a lot of their time instead of attending to the patient. And obviously this led to higher costs because you find like files would be lost, or they would open duplicate files. When they search for a file for the patient and they were not able to find, they would open a new file, which was not necessary. So they had duplicate files, some files were lost, which was very disorienting. So the administrator wanted a quick solution to this. And we came up with, they have to start with having a right information infrastructure. Having a right information infrastructure is like building a house on a solid rock. If they build on sand, obviously there'll be chaos and frustrations. So we had to come up with 4 components that would ensure that their information infrastructure was right. And these 4 components included 1, right storage. 2, the right hardware. 3, good connectivity. And then 4, and the most important was proper security. So we look at these components one by one. Let's look at right storage. What is entailed in right storage? What are the factors that will determine this is the right storage? These factors included 1, scalability, 2, access. This meant access to the documents from all the departments. So it has to be in a central place where anybody in the other departments, where the whole company can have all their documents in the central place, giving a single source of truth. And then number 3, access control. This was to increase in the internal security. With access control, the authorized persons of each department were the only ones who were able to access their required documents. And then number 4 is backup. Having backup is very necessary because this comes in handy when there is accidental deletion, there is a system failure, or there is a cyber security breaching. They are able to recover their documents as soon as possible when there's a backup, and this would also prevent legal and compliance risks. Let's go to number 2, the right hardware. The right hardware entails scanners. These ones are determined in the initial stages of the information infrastructure. In the initial stage, I'm looking at this institution, they'd never done all their documents were in the physical stage. So they were all paper. So basically in the initial stages, they would need a high-speed scanner that would speed up that process. So they would either buy a high-speed scanner or they use an external provider to support them in that aspect. And then they would get a simple scanner for their everyday use, whereby as much as they move to the digital space, they would still have suppliers bringing in paper or referrals from the other institutions coming in paper who've not transitioned. And they would automatically convert them into the digital space before storing them in the central repository. And then they would need computers which had powerful processing. This would enable uploads, sharing of documents, and also collaboration. A poor computer with a poor processing power would slow them down. They would have a lot of waiting time, which would waste a lot of the staff's time, and that obviously will affect the productivity. And then we look at the backups in terms of will they need servers, or will they need external drives, or can they use the cloud archives? For me, I prefer the cloud archives because you would have 2 or 3 cloud archives, but most people prefer having an external drive. They don't feel comfortable paying for the client for the monthly subscriptions or annual subscriptions. So, but if they have a server, they cannot also do a backup on the server. If they were to use the on-premise server to store their documents, they would have to look for another source to store their backups. And then number 3, we go to good connectivity. The connectivity has to be very good has to have a good performance to ensure that everything flows. So they have to get a good provider who will give them the appropriate internet for them to process their workflows. And then number 4, we go to proper security. This one is very crucial because all documents are supposed to be confidential and sensitive. And to ensure maximum security, they would need passwords, which can also be used internally. They would need MFA or multi-factor authentication, that is for double security, and they would also need encryption for all documents that are in transit are in the store. This would ensure total all-round security of their documents. So for the right information infrastructure, these components are very important. Let's do a summary of these components. 1, they should ensure they have the right storage. 2, they should ensure they have the right hardware. 3, they should ensure they have good connectivity. And then the 4th and last one, they should ensure they have proper security. You can reach out for our coaching sessions. Click the link below to book a session.